they were at a disadvantage. They were like, man, like schools are never going to look at me and think that I'm a strong applicant. Schools are never going to consider me a competitive student that they would want in their program. And I'm just afraid that I'm going to put all my effort towards this dream of becoming a physical therapist only to be disappointed in the end. Turning dreams into reality in the lab with the Hey, what is up? Hi, my name is Joseph Ngugi. I'm a physical therapist. I'm also one of the co-founders of Pre-PT Grind, where we help you get into physical therapy school without wasting time or money. If you are new to this page, please just binge on as much free value as you can. We will continue to serve you as long as you're like, hey, I still want to be a PT. If that's you, then you are definitely in the right place. And we have other platforms and things like that you can keep learning from us and leveling up with us and talking with us so that we can help you get one step closer to your dream. In this particular video or in this particular training, I want to talk about how to get accepted into physical therapy school by changing your P. And the P is perspective, right? By changing your perspective. And if you've followed us for a while, you know how we vibe, right? Like we genuinely believe that every single student that desires to become a physical therapist, despite what your challenges have been, we believe that every single student can get into physical therapy school. Why do we believe that? Because we've just seen it time and time again. And one of the key shifts that has taken place with students that we've worked with that have had either low grades or past rejections, or they are starting the game later. So maybe they're like 5 years out from school, 10 years out from school or more. They struggle with the GRE, whatever the challenges are. Like the biggest thing for them was perspective, right? Because a lot of those students felt like they were at a disadvantage. They were like, man, like schools are never going to look at me and think that I'm a strong applicant. Schools are never going to consider me a competitive student that they would want in their program. And I'm just afraid that I'm going to put all my effort towards this dream of becoming a physical therapist only to be disappointed in the end. And so one of the biggest shifts has been perspective, like massive perspective. And so my first question to you is, what if your biggest challenges, right? Because all of us have different obstacles. What if your biggest challenges are your biggest opportunities in disguise? Like, what if my biggest challenges are my biggest opportunities in disguise, as long as I choose to not avoid them, right? So one of the main things that I see with students is when we don't feel like we are strong in one area, we try to avoid it, right? So if I feel like I struggle academically, so I have low grades, I try to say, well, let me find other things that I can add in my application, and hopefully schools will overlook the fact that I have a low GPA. Or if I struggle with the GRE, right? It's like, well, okay, I struggle with standardized tests. Let me apply to schools that don't look at the GRE. And it's not a bad strategy, by the way, but most of us spend more time trying to avoid or run away from our biggest obstacles as we desire or as we work hard to become physical therapists. Does that make sense? And so what if just the decision to say, wait, what if my perspective changed? What if I switched to the perspective of, what if I actually went through my obstacle? What if I actually said, okay, I struggle academically. What if I can learn how to study differently? What if I can learn new study strategies? What if I go back and retake classes that show them the kind of student I am now versus the student that I was my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, right? If I struggle with standardized exams, how can I put myself around people that understand this process, that understand how standardized exams work, that can actually help me learn strategies that will help me increase my score, knowing that at the end of PT school, there's going to be another exam, right? The board exam. And if I can learn how to actually build around the right study strategies, my confidence in myself and the confidence in the school and me will actually go up, because now all of a sudden I went through my biggest obstacle. What if it's an advantage? What if it's an opportunity in disguise? Right? That's that is the first perspective shift, because a lot of us see we see our obstacles as big barriers, right? We're like, man, that is a challenge, that is an obstacle, I don't want to go through that. And most students don't realize that is actually an opportunity in disguise, right? Let's talk about things like imposter syndrome, because that's another thing that students struggle with. What if my perspective on imposter syndrome changed. Remember, like all we're talking about in this video is like how to get accepted into PT school by changing my perspective, right? Because if I can change my perspective, then all of a sudden I'll see different things. When I see different things, I will take different actions, and those actions will actually get me closer to my dream of becoming a physical therapist, okay? So with imposter syndrome, we feel like we're basically going to be figured out. It's like, man, I don't belong here. Like, I don't, whether it's because of our academic status, whether it's because of our age, whether it's because you see other students that have better grades than you, or whatever the reason is, most of us feel that level of imposter syndrome at some point. Trust me, I felt it a lot. Now, here's a slight perspective shift that might work in your behalf, right? What if I looked at my imposter syndrome as a signal that I am leveling up, right? So think about it like this. When you went from first grade to second grade, what was the biggest shift? It was a new class environment. It was a new teacher. It was different material that you're learning. In the first few weeks, you're excited, but you're also kind of nervous. You're like, man, like, I hope I can handle second grade, right? Okay, let's make a bigger leap. What about 8th grade to high school? When I went from 8th grade to high school, it was exciting because it's high school, right? But you're also intimidated, right? You're like, man, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with the intensity of high school. And I mean, now looking back, for most of us, it's like, wow, like we were terrified. But like now looking back, it's like, wow, like it figured itself out. But that initial stretch had imposter syndrome written all over it, like where we felt like, whoa, what if I can't keep up? What if high school is too much for me, right? And then eventually you kind of figured out your vibe, you found your people, you figured out your study strategies, and you basically figured it out all the way through high school. What about the transition from high school to college, right? Imposter syndrome. So the perspective shift is, what if the feeling of imposter syndrome is just me leveling up? What if it's just me going into new terrain? And that's actually a normal feeling. Because if you can change the meaning that you attach to that feeling, then you'll actually start seeing it as a positive thing. So like, for example, like myself and Casey, the other co-founder of Pre-PT Grind, we are entrepreneurs. Like, we have multiple businesses. We are also physical therapists. And I'm telling you right now, like, even in the last year, we have made certain changes in our careers and even in our businesses and adding on more and all that stuff that have made us feel that same feeling of imposter syndrome, where it was like, whoa, like, this is new territory. Like, can we handle this? Can we do this? Are people going to figure us out? Like, right? But we have changed the meaning or the perspective that we have around imposter syndrome. So for us, it's like, whoa, like, we are leveling up. Like, we are not stagnating. We are pushing ourselves. And we know that every other time we have pushed ourselves, it's always worked out, right? You got through second grade. You got through high school. Most of y'all are going through college right now, or you've gotten through it, right? But you've been able to adjust. And so as a pre-PT, as someone that is feeling the imposter syndrome, whether it's because of your stats or whatnot, just understand you are in the process of leveling up, and it's actually a good thing. It should actually excite you. In fact, if you get to a point in your life where you stop feeling that, then you know that you're actually settling. Is that making sense? Y'all see how perspective shifts are huge and they become a massive asset for you, right? So like perspective is huge. So I have to start looking at every single challenge I have. Every challenge I have needs to like be on the backbone of perspective, right? If I don't have the right perspective, I'm going to start seeing it as the end of the world, right? For some of the students that we've worked with that have had insanely low GPAs, their perspective could have very easily been, I'll never be good enough. I'll never have as high grade as the students that have a 3.7, a 3.8, 3.9. I'll never be able to. I'll never be smart enough. I'll never be this. That's a negative perspective. Or they can say, this is an opportunity for me to show them how much grit I have, what I do when I'm cornered, how badly I want to be a physical therapist. Does that make sense, y'all? So the last thing I want to give you is, what are 3 steps that I can take to change my perspective? Because I'm telling you right now, if you can start to shift your perspective, y'all, like for many of you, that is what's holding you back. And if you can start to learn how to shift it every single time you start having challenges or obstacles, then you will constantly keep taking steps towards this dream of becoming a physical therapist. And the reason why that's so critical, the reason why that's so important, is because the only thing holding you back from becoming a physical therapist is you. That is it. That is it. Why do I say it's you? Well, it's because you're the only one that has the power to quit. And the moment you decide to pull the plug on your dream of becoming a physical therapist, that is the only time it ends. Until that point, you have the power to keep moving forward. But our perspective needs to shift so that we see it. Like, we're not giving up on ourselves. We see hope. We have hope, right? And so here are 3 steps that you can take to shift your perspective. And then after that, I'll be done. So the first one is change your exposure. Change your exposure. Change your exposure of like who's around you. Change your exposure of what also goes in your mind, right? So for me to change my perspective, I have to constantly have things going into my mind, into my ears every single day that are actually serving me, right? So I like if you feel like you can't do it, if you feel like you're not going to be good enough, what if every single day you listened to people that have been there and done that? What if you listen to this platform, right? Like we got you every single week. Like we will always help you get closer to your dream. But why can't I just listen to other people that have been where I'm at? And I mean, if you want to hear more, just reach out to us. We got you. Like literally, like we have like stories that students have told, that students that have had 2.4 GPAs, 20 plus rejections in a previous cycle. They're first generation. All like, if you just heard them and you just expose yourself to that, it would give you so much belief. It would change your perspective, because all of a sudden you start saying, wait a minute, hold on. If they could do it, why not me? Right? Like if they could do it, why can't I do it? Right? And also the people I'm around, like I have to make sure, like, are people, like whoever I'm talking to about my journey, are they adding more doubt or are they adding more belief, right? Because if they're adding more doubt, it's going to be very difficult for you to push through that. If they're giving you more belief, you're always going to see the opportunity to level up. You're always going to say, okay, cool. Like, what can I do next? What's my next step? How can I get guidance? How can I get direction? Whatever the thing is, right? And so that's step number 1 to changing your perspective. Number 2, it's change your focus. Change your focus. And what do I mean by that? Focus on the real goal. Okay, so when I ask you if you're interested in becoming a physical therapist, did you dream about getting into PT school, or did you initially dream about becoming a physical therapist? Right? And that's the real focus. Yes, PT school is how we get there. I get that. But the real focus is becoming a physical therapist. And if we can start focusing more on that, then it'll actually give us more fuel to navigate through the different obstacles that we have currently. Does that make sense? And so like, change your focus. Change your focus. And then remind yourself, why do you want to be a physical therapist in the first place? Like it's always interesting to me how most of us forget the reason why we're doing something when we're in the thick of it, right? Like go back to your initial reason. Like, what made you decide that this was the career you wanted, right? Now, for those of y'all that are still deciding whether or not you want to be a PT, keep exploring it. But for those of y'all that have decided, like, what initially made you decide that this was the career that you desire to get into? Go back to that and let that fuel you. Does that make sense? And then point number 3 is change your actions. Are my current actions serving my dream to become a physical therapist? If they are, good job. If they are not, then we need to start actively changing them. And if you don't know what your next best actions should be, then that's when we need a guide. That's when we need guidance from someone that has been there before, someone that has navigated through it before, someone that can help you figure out what your next steps are, what your game plan is, but always getting you closer to your dream, never away from it. Does that make sense? And so that's it right there. That's how you get into PT school, by changing your perspective. Do it by exposure. Ask yourself, what am I exposing myself to and how can I change that? Do it by your focus. What am I focusing on? Am I focusing on my obstacles right now? Am I focusing on just getting into PT school, or am I focusing on becoming a physical therapist? And then change your actions. Are my actions serving my dream of becoming a physical therapist? That's it. So hopefully that was valuable. And if you want to know a great next step or a great first place to start, go to www.rejectionproofprept.com. We will literally help you build that starting right now. We have a little 10-minute video there that you'll watch that will show you the blueprint. It won't even take that much time. And then after that, you'll have the opportunity to actually schedule a call with one of us and have us help you figure this thing out so that you can set yourself up to be an irresistible applicant to your dream PT program. So that's it. Hopefully that was valuable. If you enjoyed this, please share this out with anyone that you feel would value it. And we got more of these coming. So every single week, come here, subscribe to the channel. Literally, we got more coming every single freaking week to help you level up. We'll talk soon. Have a blessed one. Bye.